Welcome fans of strategy games. Are you up for another battle taking place in the Napoleonic Wars? If so, let's jump into the match between the red player Lancer, he is playing for Britain, and his opponent, the white player MrBoomBastic, he is playing for the nation Spain. And both players decided to build the market right after building the town center, so they can exchange goods very quickly right from the beginning. And Lancer is building the barracks as the next building, I think. And I wanted to compare both nations a little bit, at least, at the beginning. So I think the two nations, Spain and Britain, have in common that they both completely rely on iron, because every troop you can build for Spain or for Britain needs iron for production. And what they also have in common is that you can build the palace very quickly, and that's a very good thing, because you get extra gold income very quickly in the game. And here you can see MrBoomBastic has built his barracks here at that crossroad, and he's training the so-called guerrilla unit for Spain. And what's the best thing about the nations? So I think the best thing about Britain are the Highlanders, which are very tough to beat unit, because they have a high morale and they have a high shot damage. So here are the Highlanders. You need to build the blacksmiths first in order to be able to train them. And here you can see Lancer is sending his musketeers to capture that food village. And on the other hand, the best thing about Spain is that you can build the second barracks very quickly. So you can train a lot of good soldiers, the grenadiers. And it's very hard for the opponent, because you can field a lot of grenadiers pretty early in the game if you build the second barracks for Spain. And yeah, it's a hard task for your opponent to beat that many grenadiers when he plays against Spain. So I think I can speed up the gameplay a little bit. And before we witness the first battle between the units, I can tell you that you can feel free to contact me and send me a replay of your game maybe, and I will do my best to comment it and upload it. And here we see the British musketeers lining up against the Spanish guerrilla unit, and the British musketeers got frightened because they couldn't even shoot. They were frightened by the shots of the guerrilla unit. And now it's a bad situation for Lancer, because MrBoomBastic was able to nearly cut off Lancer from this peninsula. And on this peninsula, two neutral villages are, and MrBoomBastic was able to capture that neutral gold village, which is very important. But Lancer won't give up that soon, I think. So he trained Highlanders now and is attacking the guerrilla units. They exchanged volley fire, and meanwhile his British musketeers were able to capture that neutral iron village here, and they're getting attacked by the Spanish guerrilla unit. Both units fired and retreat a little bit. So here we have only one squad of Highlanders against three guerrilla units, but Britain is getting support, namely one squad of British musketeers and one squad of cavalry.
The enemy's close now. The enemy scatters in terror.
but the guerrilla unit now advance, and Spanish cavalry is also ready and is joining the fight, and I think together the Spanish units will be able to make the British cavalry disintegrate, and that was the case. So another unit of British Highlanders are forming up here on that crossroad and getting in square formation so they can't be easily attacked by the cavalry. And Spanish grenadiers can be seen on the battlefield. That was very quick, and it's getting harder for Lancer. So as far as economy is concerned, MrBoomBastic is now in a pretty huge advantage because he has a lot of more villages captured, and here Lancer was able to successfully defend that iron village. And let's see, 3 Spanish infantry units and 2 cavalry units for Spain are ready to take the fight against 2 Highlander squads and 1 cavalry unit for Britain. And now British grenadiers are moving down the map, I thought, but now they are sent. Oh, now they're sent back down the map. And MrBoomBastic is attacking with his units. British cavalry is frightened, and the Spanish cavalry is joining the fight. British grenadiers are also trying their best, but Spain is victorious in that pretty big battle and have now secured that crossroad. And the British musketeers meanwhile were moving into that coal village and were able to capture it, but I think they won't be able to defend it because they have a pretty high numerical disadvantage against the Spanish units. Okay, they will disintegrate, and MrBoomBastic was able to recapture that coal village, even though he's attacked by the British Highlanders and the British cavalry, but they weren't in a good position, I think, and so MrBoomBastic was able to repel Lancer's counterattack. And let's see what's happening on the top of the map. So 2 infantry units are ready for MrBoomBastic, and I think he's going for the straight attack. And he has to destroy that defensive structure here built by Lancer. So his grenadier units were demoralized a little bit, but together with the guerrilla unit, maybe MrBoomBastic is able to capture that gold village. But it won't be easy because 1 squad of Highlanders are ready, and also the British cavalry is joining the fight. Meanwhile, MrBoomBastic was able to capture that iron village here. So another big blow for Lancer because he has only 1 iron village left. So it's pretty much is happening, and in a pretty fast playback speed, but it's a pretty long match, so I think it's reasonable to watch it in a slower, in a faster pace. So Lancer was able to repel the attack of MrBoomBastic here on the top of the map, and now a big fight between the both cavalry units supported by a little bit of infantry, and I think Lancer is victorious and could send the enemy units home. So let's see. 4 units of cavalry, a little bit decimated, but it's okay, I think. So that was a very important victory, because So you can say maybe Lancer is able to turn the page, turn the game around. His Highlanders are attacking and send the guerrilla unit home. There you could see the high shot damage of the Highlanders. So they frightened the guerrilla unit even from a pretty far distance. And two grenadier units of Spain are lining up against two squads of Highlanders. And here down the map you can see another little fight, two Highlander squads against one grenadier squad. And that was a good move, I think, of Lancer. He frightened the grenadier squads and sent his cavalry in pursuit to slaughter some of them. But then the Spanish cavalry disappeared and Lancer decided to back down a little bit. So here you can see a howitzer ready for Lancer. I think lining up against the howitzer to destroy it. And you can see the two players are maneuvering a little bit. The Highlanders try to attack the Spanish cavalry. And now the guerrilla unit was shot from the side by the Highlanders. And I think Lancer is able to make the enemy retreat. And it's now very crucial for him to capture that iron village. But let's see what's happening on other sides of the map. So MrBoomBastic is sending in a grenadier unit here to that crossroad near to the barracks of Britain. But the Highlanders maybe are able to make the grenadiers disintegrate. Yes, that was successful. And here two grenadier units are defending the iron village against two Highlanders. And now we can come back to the most important battle for that iron village, which belongs to MrBoomBastic. Now he tries to defend it and gets in square formation with his grenadiers, but he faces two Highlander squads and not so mighty British cavalry anymore, because they got pretty much decimated. So Lancer has to refill that units and before he can attack with his cavalry once again. So I think that's a tough situation for Lancer. He only can field his infantry, but now he can throw in his cavalry once again. And it's a close fight, I think. Pretty hard to tell, but the Spanish units were able to win that fight. And MrBoomBastic decided to attack right away and send his guerrilla units in. So I think that was very decisive. Lancer wasn't able to make the breakthrough. He was nearly managed to do that, but a little bit was missing for the decisive breakthrough. And now MrBoomBastic tries to cross that little river here and come into enemy territory, and Lancer is doing all he can to defend the position, but it's a little bit overwhelming as far as the numerical advantage of MrBoomBastic is concerned. So that game shows that the economy is playing a huge role, because Lancer only has one iron village and very few other villages, and MrBoom is controlling nearly nearly most of the villages on the map, so he can get much more resources and train more and more soldiers. So Lancer has to retreat and retreat. Maybe he's able to defend the barracks. He has also built a fort now to train more soldiers, but it's pretty tough with that less resources. So I think everything is ready for a last decisive attack of MrBoomBastic. He was able to repel the enemy once again and drive them further back. So Lancer is trying to build a blockhouse here to defend his barracks, but I think it's nearly game over and he can give up now. But he fights on, it seems. So two Highlander squads are trying their best, but one squad got frightened and the other one is doomed too, I think. And now Grenadier squads are trying to capture that food village here, and it's game over for Lancer. So, what I can say, that was the first game. Lancer lost on his YouTube channel. What a tragedy. No, just kidding. But maybe he's able to come back stronger in his next one. And I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Have a nice day. Bye.